This is Edwin as Uncle Albert, Julie Andrews, and Dick Van Dyke singing I Love to Laugh. I'm only going to give you a little clip because I always get clipped for using these kind of musics. Butthurt Part 4. Okay, this is me again doing another butthurt about Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And the next one I'm going to talk to you about is COPPA. COPPA. Now, if you do uploads onto YouTube, you will have seen this. It comes up every time you go and upload a video. It gives you this blurb, and it says, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA, requires you to declare whether your channel is fit for children or not. Right? Have you seen this? Well, that's what it is. So I tried to do it on my smartphone. I tried to find out where on YouTube I've got to make this declaration. On my smartphone and loading up YouTube, I could not find it. So I went and I fired up my very old desktop computer that runs Microsoft Windows. No one uses Microsoft Windows anymore. 25 years ago, no one would have believed that we'd ever get rid of Microsoft Windows, but no one uses Windows anymore. It's all either Android or iPhone. So I fired it up because I knew I can get YouTube on there using an old web browser like Firefox. And I loaded it up and I called up my YouTube channel and I logged in. And lo and behold, after I took about 25 minutes looking around YouTube all over the place, every nook and cranny, I finally found the place where you can go and you do this COPPA, COPPA, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, and I found the spot where you mark your channel as being for children or not for children. I marked it not for children. If you're a child and you're watching this, turn it off. Go and find Mary Poppins or something. So anyway, I marked it, and lo and behold, I've been making videos since that time, and this thing still keeps popping up. Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, you've got to declare your channel one way or another. I did. How stupid are you, YouTube? How stupid are you that you can't see that I made my choice already? And why do you keep giving me this thing that keeps coming up, telling me to do something I already done? There is no good explanation other than I have no answer. No answer. It's just stupid. Okay, and then I want to talk about, okay, this is it. Children's Online Protection, COPPA, COPPA. And I look at it and I say, it's the COPPA Feel Act. You know what a COPPA Feel is? It's like, this is not a children's channel anymore, but COPPA Feel. And why would they call it? It's because there's pedophiles everywhere, everything to do with the United States government and Hollywood. Pedophile, pedophile, pedophile. Children's Online Protection Privacy Act. It's COPPA Feel Act. Everything to do with it. Pedophiles. Pedophile, pedophile, pedophile. Today, I was looking, and I wasn't looking, it just came up. It just came up somewhere. Where was it? It was a Facebook group, I think. And they were talking about pedophiles in Hollywood. And they gave up the example of Brooke Shields. Brooke Shields, and I didn't even know this back. I knew she was very young when she made, it was some movie about her and a young guy stranded on an island. And I don't know. I'm about Brooke Shields' age in real life. So this was when I was very young. And lo and behold, the background to the story, they didn't even talk about this movie. They talked about another movie called something else. And it was about her. And then they talked about the pictures that her mother took of her when she was 11 years old. And they were being used in a Playboy magazine. It wasn't Playboy proper, I don't think so. It was another Playboy owned thing, owned by Hugh Hefner, and it was naked pictures of Brooke Shields when she was 11 years old. And I think they did publish underage pictures of Brooke Shields. I'm not sure what magazine it was, way back in the day, but maybe when she was, I don't know, 16. I'm trying to remember this movie she was in. And then she was in this other movie, and it was a child prostitution, and it had Julia Roberts in it. And these are old movies. These are very old. I mean, I'm an old man. If you look at me corners, I got little gray hairs, and sometimes you see me when I've got scruff, and I'm very gray. I'm a very old person. So I mean, it's not like this is new. This is something from. I mean, Hugh Hefner's dead, and he was a very dirty old man. I don't know. It's like, seriously, 11 years old, you're taking pictures of your daughter to sell to Playboy magazine. Brooke Shields' mother. Brooke Shields now is, I think she's like 56 years old. So this was a very long time ago. So is there like a statute of limitations? Well, Hugh Hefner was the owner of Playboy magazine, and he's dead unless he's been cloned and, rejuvenated somewhere else. But as far as we know, he's dead. So okay, so anyway, I'm going to move along from that topic. And the next topic I'm going to talk about is Gary Shandling. He had nothing to do with child pornography. Nothing. Completely different subject. So just, nothing to do with. I'm sorry if you're a fan of it. He's also dead. It's too bad because he should have stuck around because he was among the funniest comedians ever. Ever. So funny. He had two shows, and they're basically the same show. One was the Gary Shandling, or It's Gary Shandling Show, and the other one was the Larry Sanders Show. And they're basically pretty much the same show, but two different titles in them. I can't remember the difference. Larry Sanders also had Jeffrey Tambor and Rip Torn. That's a great name. It's a stage name, but unbelievably funny. And it was about a sort of a David Letterman kind of show. Gary Shandling starred as the David Letterman kind of person, the talk show. It was a talk show. And, on camera, he's like cool as a cucumber, right? And it's all funny. And he's got his sidekick. So if you remember way back in the olden days, there was Johnny Carson, and he had his sidekick, Ed McMahon. Ed McMahon would introduce the show, and he'd go, "Here's Johnny." So in the Larry Sanders Show, the Jeffrey Tambor character, I can't remember what he was called in the show, but he would do the introduction. He would warm up the audience with whatever funny things he could do to get the audience warm and laughing. And then he would introduce Larry Sanders for the recording of this TV show, just like Ed McMahon did for Johnny Carson. But then what in Larry Sanders Show, they would show behind the scenes what was going on. So on camera, Larry Sanders, the host, the David Letterman kind of person, be totally cool as a cucumber. He would laugh, but, he'd never be butthurt. Never be butthurt. But behind the scenes, he was a prima donna. He was constantly neurotic. He was worried that the size of his ass was too big. Rip Torn played the producer, and he was really funny. He would constantly have to humor Larry Sanders and say, no, your butt's not too big. And then he was famous because he had a drink. And if he was going for a drink, it was a tequila drink. And it was called a salty dog. That was what he drank, a salty dog. So it was salt and tequila, maybe lime juice or something, a salty dog. Oh, if you can ever find these TV shows, they are so unbelievably funny. So what else have we got to do with Butthurt? Well, I mean, that's basically what Larry Sanders was butthurt behind the scenes constantly because his guests would come in and some of the guests would get their noses out of joint because they were supposed to be on the show, but they ran out of time. So he'd have to kind of mollycoddle these guests, various Hollywood celebrities. Mollycoddling is humoring people. It's basically saying, I really, really like you. And you might really, really like this person, but you're saying, I really, really like you because you don't want them to be butthurt about, not getting on the show this time. Come back tomorrow night, and then tomorrow night's show will get you on. And so mollycoddling is basically telling people, yeah, I know I kind of screwed up. Please bear with me because, I really want you on the show. Now, this is interesting because someone I know always says, please bear with me. They've been in 12 different businesses in their career. They're about 75 years old now. They should have retired. They're still working. And this person is famous for not mollycoddling, glad handling. Glad handling is not the same as mollycoddling. It's kind of the same. It's basically saying, I'm a jackass and I screwed up. Please bear with me. And this is what this person always says to his partners in business or his customers. Please bear with me. It's called glad handling. It's like you're smiling and you're always being shamelessly self-promoting you and your business and pretending that you're not a complete jackass, but you are. Everyone knows it. It's glad handling. It's basically smiling and, I'm going to bullshit and baffle gab you. Bullshit and baffle gab you. I'm going to bring a dump truck full of bullshit and get him to unload the bullshit on you so that you will buy my product, even though you know that I am probably going to be late. I'm probably going to screw up the order. And that's what you call glad handling. Rumpelstiltskin is an imp. An imp is kind of like a little devil. Likes to play tricks. Very tricky kind of person. And when I wear this hat, this is Rumpelstiltskin's hat. It was bear with me. And one time I was helping this person out. I shouldn't have. I should have remembered from like 25 years ago when I first was working with this person that I was told they're a glad handler and that they're going to screw it up. Always screw it up. Everyone he ever worked with says he's going to screw it up. Don't work with this person. I did, and lo and behold, it was like, I'm never going to work with this person again. And it was like 25 years later, they called me up out of the blue and say, let's go for lunch, and I need your help. I should have known better. But I went for lunch, and somehow I started to work on something, and then it dinged, ding, 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 ding. You idiot. 25 years ago, you swore you'd never work with this person, and now you're trying to do something with them. And then I went, oh, that's right. Anyways, it was 25 years ago. I'm getting old, and maybe I've got a touch of dementia or something. But there it was again, because it was written down in hand printing, and it was basically to another customer. I know we screwed up. Please bear with us. Nothing new there. Please bear with me has been used for, I don't know, I told you the person's 75 years old. But I was looking at the word please bear with me, and I'm trying to figure out, is it proper English to say bear, B-A-R-E, as in bare ass naked? Or is it bear with me as in B-E-A-R, grizzly bear with me? And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out, is it B-A-R-E or B-E-A-R if you're going to say to someone, please bear with me. Um, Let me see. Okay, I just looked it up. I have got this ancient dictionary. It's the Oxford, Concise Oxford Dictionary. I looked at the frontispiece. It's 1911. So I think this must have come from my grandmother's house. 1911, this book. It's still very good. And it turns out that please bear with me is Bear. I looked up both entries and that's what it is. So that's your answer, just so you know, for future reference. This has been, I think this is it part 5 of Butthurt? Now, what am I butthurt about? Well, I guess I'm still butthurt about this one. It's like, why is it that after I marked my YouTube channel not for children, they're still giving me this thing, kappa, kappa, kappa. I mean, it's no real big deal. It just takes up, like this much of my screen, like this much of my screen. And it's just like, well, I mean, do I have to go back and fire up my Microsoft Windows old computer to desktop and log back in again and see whether somehow when I marked it not for children that it didn't take or something? And I don't know, like, is it gonna like stop me from using YouTube? Is it next year in 2020 sometime when, you're supposed to have already marked this? Why didn't they just like, this is so stupid. This keeps coming up. Why, YouTube, why don't you just right underneath this thing here, that comes up on your screen, why don't you have a little checkbox for children or not for children right there? Why do you make me go and fire up my Microsoft Windows machine that's 25 years old so I can go in there and find this little spot that's hidden away? It's not easy to find. It's so hard to find. It's like, if you're trying to make everyone it's this butthurt. This is more beyond butthurt. I mean, butthurt is like, you shouldn't take it seriously. I guess I shouldn't take YouTube seriously. But, I mean, someone says it's the audacity of hope, Barack Obama. No. That's a completely different story. I mean, the audacity of hope. Barack Obama, I mean, granted, he was the first black president. And yes, you should definitely have people from different colors of people to be the president of the United States. I think you should have a woman. I think you should have a LGBTQ person. I think perhaps you should elect a cat, a Sasquatch. Yes, all of these different people should be president of the United States because it is a figurehead role. Everyone knows by now that the president of the United States accomplishes nothing, is the biggest buffoon on the planet, and that's why he is the star of fake news at 6:30 p.m. every night on the American mainstream news channels. But as a president, was he effective? Well, he brought the Americans some kind of Medicare. So I'll give him credit for that. I mean, I think the Americans always say USA, USA at the Olympics constantly. I mean, we're the highest and the best. And they're the last Western country to have some form of Medicare paid for by the government. I'm serious. The last country out of like NATO countries, G7, G8 countries, the last country to figure out that, you should have something to pay for people if they're sick. I don't know. Anyway, he brought something in, so I'll give him credit for that. I think that he faked the death of Osama bin Laden because he had them dump the body into the Arabian Sea. Why didn't they just bring it home so it could be inspected? Oh dear, I'm up to 20 minutes. This brings up another topic, and the new topic is going to be what did they do with all the Nazis from World War II? I was looking up I don't know how I got on it. Sometimes I just start clicking on hyperlinks and I end up getting someplace. And I got into the end of World War II and what happened to the leadership of the Nazi Party. This is my washing machine. Why does it make such a long ding? No one knows. But anyway, a lot of them were, it says in Wikipedia, a lot of them took capsules of poison, potassium cyanide, and it kills you within about a minute. There was Adolf Hitler took it, Hermann Goring took it, and Himmler took it, whatever his first name was, Himmler. So those were at least three of the big wigs of the Nazi Party took potassium cyanide to kill themselves. And a lot of, like, Hitler wasn't locked up, but Goring was already imprisoned by the Allies, and so was Himmler. No one ever explained how they smuggled in these poison capsules to these Nazis, but somehow they got them. And then I saw a picture of Himmler lying on the floor after he took the poison. And then I started thinking, well, I mean, I was born 20 years after the end of World War II. And by now, I'm really used to them faking all kinds of things, like the Jeffrey Epstein. Either Jeffrey, they say, well, he was dead one way or another. Either he hanged himself or someone else came in and hung him. In my opinion, no, he was a billionaire. He was smuggled out of jail. They paid everybody off. And maybe he's going to have plastic surgery to look like a little bit different. But there was a picture of Jeffrey Epstein, and someone showed a picture of Epstein first when he was alive and then dead, and they put them, the two heads, side by side, and the ears are different, so it's not the same dead body. I think Epstein's still alive somewhere, but it's all been faked. And then I started thinking, well, if you were the Nazis, and everyone knows about Project Paperclip, where the United States brought in all kinds of the top Nazis from Nazi Germany at the end of World War II. One, because they were scientists and they had advanced knowledge on things on how to do like rocketry. So there was Werner von Braun, who was the head of NASA, National Space Administration of the United States. Werner von Braun was a Nazi, and there's a whole pile of other ones that came over. Lots and lots of them, Project Paperclip. And they also brought in other ones who knew about spying, Nazi spy masters, because the American government wanted to spy on the Russians, the Soviet Union. So all these Nazis were brought into the United States. And then there was all these stories about like Adolf Eichmann was found by the Israeli government in South America, and he was extradited to Israel, and he was tried and either shot or hung for crimes against humanity. But these other ones that took these cyanide pills, after you've seen so much fake news, I'm wondering whether these people really did die, or whether it was just reported to the public that they took a cyanide and they were dead. And then they showed a picture of someone reputed to be Himmler lying dead on the ground, just a snapshot. In those days, they didn't even have television. End of World War II, they had radio, and they had film. So they had newsreels. So people went to the movies in movie theaters every week to watch movies because there was no television. And before the movie was shown, they would show a newsreel, and that would give you the news and what was going on in video. So I'm starting to think, well, maybe fake news was being done way back at the end of World War II. And they faked the death of all the top Nazis. They faked Hitler, they faked Himmler, and they faked Goring, and maybe there was some other ones. And it's just like they would report it, and the people would basically believe it because it was the news, and they were all on the same side. But people in those days end of World War II were not told about Project Paperclip, that their own government, the American government, and it wasn't just the Americans, they were all scrambling to get these top Nazis. The Russians wanted them because they were had all this advanced science that they were working on, technology. The Russians wanted them, the British wanted them, and the Americans wanted them. Primarily those ones. I don't know if any other countries were after them, but those were the ones that were primarily after these top Nazis. And the population was told, well, the top Nazis were dead by suicide. But it's like what I said with Obama. Under the Obama administration, they said Osama bin Laden was found, he was killed, and then his body was dumped in the Arabian Sea. So there's no proof. There's no proof at all. And this is what I'm looking back on, and I'm saying, geez, they pulled the wool over the whole world's eyes. They pulled the wool over your eyes because they said these ones died by suicide. But, what proof do you have? No video. I think it was all faked, and because they wanted these Nazis. Why would you want Hitler, Himmler, and Göring? Because they weren't scientists. They were good administrators. They were great mass murderers. I'm going to have to ponder on why you would want these ones. Except maybe the Nazis were the ones who really won World War II. I mean, everyone knows that George Bush, the first President Bush, his father was Senator Prescott Bush, and he was convicted with trading with the Nazis after World War II. He was Hitler's banker. So that was George W. Bush's grandfather. You didn't know that? Yes, you look it up. Prescott Bush, Senator Prescott Bush. He was trading with the Nazis. Ford Motor Company of the United States was secretly, I'm not exactly sure how, I looked it up at one time, but somehow they were also involved with the Nazis. There were plenty of corporations that were involved with the Nazis in the middle of World War II. So it seems to me that maybe the Nazis did win World War II, and then they pulled the wool over our eyes, and they gave us phony baloney democracies. I mean, we have a prime example, George W. Bush versus John Kerry, presidential election, United States. Both, one was Democrat, one was Republican. The Republican won. But if you look at the history of them, they both went to Yale University, and they were both secret society members, skull and bones. They were both bonesmen. So either way that election went, you were going to have Skull and Bones as president. These families that Kerry and Bush belonged to were filthy rich, aristocracy basically, American aristocracy, and that's your democracy. You've got Nazi Bush family. I don't know what you would say about him, but he's aristocratic family, which owns all the corporations, and you wonder, like the corporations, the multinationals around the world. Well, Nazi Germany and fascism that was what they were all about. The government was totally in bed with big business. The government and big business were one and the same thing. How is it different today in our so-called democracies? There's no difference. We are still, everything is owned by the aristocracy, including large corporations, and the government bends to the will of the corporations and the filthy rich aristocracy. So in essence, the Nazis and the fascists did win World War II, and ever since then they've been giving us phony baloney democracy to make us think that we won. And so maybe these top Nazis, I don't know, maybe they just lived the lifestyles of rich and famous in South America or someplace, and They weren't reported on, and they lived to a ripe old age, and that's the state of the world now because the Nazis and the fascists won World War II. This has been your comedy break for today. I hope I didn't scare you too much, but these are some of the things that go through my mind when Rumpelstiltskin comes around. I'm sorry, I've lost my Harley Davidson, but I'm Harley Davidson today for Butthurt. I think this was Butthurt Part 5.